Novak. For hire.
Meet America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Sure, I'm Pat Novak. For hire. There's a sign in front of my office that says just that. And it's a straightforward operation. Oh, I rent boats and everything else that can buy a warm meal and a cold beer. But down here on the waterfront in San Francisco, you usually get the opposite. The night was laying over the city like a damp cloth. A kind of wet, cold evening that makes you wish you could afford a fireplace. I was sitting in my office, letting my thoughts dance around with the fog, when I heard the footsteps, firm, confident, like a bill collector coming to make his last call. I knew they meant business or trouble. But around here, they're usually the same thing. I didn't recognize the guy that came in. He was well dressed, looked like he could buy and sell the place 10 times over, without ever checking with his accountant. But his eyes were cautious, like a man about to roll sugar cube dice on a concrete sidewalk.
Are you Pat Novak?
Yeah, I'm Novak. And if that's good news, keep talking.
The name's Johnny Dollar. I'm an insurance investigator. I'm here on a job. I hear you're the best when it comes to knowing San Francisco.
Sorry, Dollar. I don't give tours. And my hop-on, hop-off red bus is in the shop. So why don't you try tourist information at Pier 39?
Oh, I need a little bit more than a tour, Novak. I'm talking about the SS Mariana. Sank off the bay last night, carrying a load of valuable estate pieces. And the boat's owner, a young widow, is making an insurance claim to the tune of $1 million.
Well, that's quite a tune. Makes me wish I've kept up with my accordion lessons.
I need you, Novak. You know these waters and the people around them. I need your local touch. Something tells me this isn't a case about lost cargo.
All right, Dollar. I'll bite. But just so we're clear, I don't do babysitting. And I charge a lot more than a daycare.
Don't worry, Novak. Just try to keep up. I'm about to introduce you to the fabulous world of freelance insurance investigation. Expense account item number 1, $1,000 for the hiring of Pat Novak. And our first stop, serenading the merry widow to check out her chart-topping story. I'll call this case The Matter of the Sinking Scheme.
Sure, Dollar. For $1,000, you can call it whatever you want. Dollar and I headed for the widow's place. It was one of those Victorian mansions on 500 West Thames Street, just a few doors down from that new Pontiac dealership. I pocketed the money. 1,000 reasons to find out what was at the bottom of the bay, and maybe at the bottom of this case. We walked up to the widow's place. The house stood there like a former heavyweight champion. Muscles turned up a little bit to flab, but still intimidating. Its ornate embellishments like trophies from a glorious past. Oh, this was the kind of place where money talks. But it never says please.
Hello. How can I help you, gentlemen?
There she was, the widow. She was the kind of woman that could make a bishop kick a hole in a stained-glass window. Oh, and she was dressed to the nines with impossible curves that would make an engineer break his slide ruler.
Mrs. Martini, I'm Johnny Dollar. And Mrs. Pat Novak.
Well, What brings two handsome gentlemen to my doorstep?
We're here about the SS Mariatta's insurance claim.
Oh, the insurance investigators. Please come in. Such a tragedy about the ship. It carried so many valuable pieces. Artwork, historical documents, antiquities.
The inside was plush and cavernous. Perfect for a little intimate party with just a few of your 100 closest friends. Everything screamed money, the kind of screams you want to hear more of.
It's quite a loss. We're here to ensure everything is accounted for.
Oh, accounting could be so tedious. Don't you think, Mr. Dollar? Did you both come all this way just to review my assets?
Mrs. Martini, we just have a few questions, considering it was such unique cargo.
Oh, yes. Unique and irreplaceable. Much like my late husband.
She played the grieving widow like a pro, but her eyes were as dry as a prohibition rally.
We also heard about Captain Haggerty. A double loss for you.
Oh, the captain was a dear friend. First, my husband passes away last year, and now this. It's all so overwhelming. But one must carry on, mustn't one? Mr. Dollar, when will I receive my check?
Well, Mrs. Martini, this is just the start of the investigation, but I can check on that for you. May I use your phone?
Certainly. Right this way.
Hi, Chick. This is Dollar. Any news on the Mariatta? Sighted from a plane? Washed up on a remote island? Chick, get me the coordinates. My associate has a boat.
Something about the ship being found didn't sit right with her. And judging by the way she lived, high stakes, high society, this widow was playing a game. And the stakes, a cool $1 million.
After leaving the Merry Widow's Palace of Pretense, Novak and I headed for the coordinates of the wreck. The widow, as charming as a snake in a cashmere sweater, made quite an impression. But not the good kind. This is just the dinghy to get us to your real boat, right, Novak?
Nope. This is it, Dollar. Welcome to my boat, the Susan G. And you're in first-class accommodations.
Well, as long as it gets us there.
She's a little bit more reliable than she looks. But I guess she'd have to be.
This Susan G. Who was she, Novak? Some great love?
She was someone's great love, Dollar, but not mine. Susan G. was the former owner's ex-wife. I got the boat in their divorce settlement. The best deal I ever made.
A boat with a past. I like it.
In San Francisco, Dollar. You learn to find the beauty in the unexpected.
Ah, the bay is beautiful. You know, Novak, back in Hartford, Connecticut, my hometown, things are a bit different. It's the insurance capital of the world. A beautiful place of order and predictability. The Pearl of New England. Have you ever heard of it, Novak?
Sure. I've heard of Hartford. It's in a book I own called 1,000 Places to Avoid Before You Die.
You'd be surprised. There's a certain charm to it. It's just a little hard to find. Kind of like you, Novak.
I'll take your word for it, Dollar. Out here, charm usually comes with an angle. And with small print so fine, you couldn't read it standing on the shoulders of an optometrist.
Look, Novak. Up ahead on those rocks. There's the Mariatta. Let's pull up ahead.
We pulled up to the Mariatta, moored off, and walked on board. It was washed up on a small rocky outcrop, far from the usual lanes. It was a miracle it found a current and didn't sink to the bottom of the bay. It was a 1,000,000 to 1 shot. like catching a Ferris Bane pop-up on a foggy day at Seal Stadium.
This ship's demise was no accident. Look at these deliberate damages. Someone wanted the Marietta at the bottom of the bay. Let's take a look at the cargo.
Hey, Johnny, take a look over here. Paintings, antiques, artifacts. Looks like a Leland Stanford garage sale.
These paintings here. Vermeers, Degas, could be real. Or they could be forgeries. We'll need an expert to confirm.
Hey, check out these Roman coins. Mark 33 BC. Wow, these are real, they're priceless.
Hey, wait a minute, not so fast. These are fakes. The Romans didn't mark their coins BC. They had no idea they were living before Christ.
This cargo is baker than a tear at a loan shark's funeral.
Novak, take this camera. These photos are vital evidence. Keep them in a safe in your office. I've got to meet my contact at Hartford Mutual at the airport. I'll meet you there.
Got it. I'll secure these photos. Be careful, Dollar. If this shipwreck was deliberate, maybe that captain is involved and still alive.
I'll see you at your office in 1 hour with Hartford Mutual and the police.
I made it back to my office, the camera in tow. A neat little bundle of damning evidence. The city was quiet, like it was holding its breath for bad news. I had the camera in my hands, and I was just about to put it in the safe when the door opened like a bad dream.
Hey, that's a nice camera you got there, Novak.
Yeah. If you're the models the agency sent over, I'm disappointed. I was expecting somebody a bit younger and a lot prettier.
You're a real comedian, Novak. Hand it over nice and easy.
Look, I'm afraid we're losing light, so I'm going to end this little fashion show early. So move on.
Just give us the camera, wise guy.
Not before you and Junior say cheese.
Hold his arms, Frankie.
Enough with the jokes, Novak. We're leaving with this.
Frankie, let me take one more photo with this camera. I want to remember what his face looked like before we rearranged it.
They pounded on me for a while, like I was a Slingerland kit at a drum-off between Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa, each thug trying to outdo the other. As the final symbol of consciousness crashed, my world faded to black.
I picked up Mr. Kobleski from Harvard Mutual at the airport. We were now en route to Novak's office to deliver the evidence. So, Mr. Kobleski, enjoying the sights of San Francisco?
Well, I'm enjoying them as much as my expense account allows. Remember, I'm from Hartford Mutual, where spending money breaks the 11th commandment.
Well, you're in luck. This city is beautiful. Just take in that scenery. That's free of charge. I'm glad you had your seatbelt on when we passed the Golden Gate Bridge. I'm sorry to tell you, it's not actually gold.
I guess I got a little excited. You know, that gold looks so real. Just imagine the size of that insurance policy.
Well, just keep looking out at the scenery. And don't look at that meter too much.
Speaking of which, Johnny, couldn't we have taken a cable car? I hear they're quite nice and affordable.
And slow and for tourists, Mr. Kobleski. Time is money, remember?
Well, in your case, Johnny, your time seems to be my money.
Here's Novak's office. And look, Inspector Hellman's already waiting for us. Expense account item 2. Taxi fare from the airport, $2.75, plus a 5-cent tip from Mr. Kobleski. Mr. Kobleski and I reached Novak's office, only to find Inspector Hellman already inside, pacing through the place like an expecting father of triplets inside a maternity ward, and one Pat Novak laid out like a mackerel.
Is that him on the floor?
Novak. Pat, wake up.
Johnny, it was two goons. They must have followed me. They got the camera, and then they worked me over.
I just found the body of Captain Haggerty from the SS Marietta in your bathroom, Novak, with a bullet through his chest. I've caught you red-handed. I'm finally gonna nail you, Novak.
That's a low blow, Hellman. Can't you see this man's been beaten up?
Yeah, Hellman. I like to mix it up with myself. It's my new hobby.
Don't play wise, Novak. What's the story with the stiff in your bathroom?
How should I know, Hellman? Maybe you want to freshen up. Why don't you ask those two thugs? I was busy taking a nap on the floor.
Inspector, use some sense. Novak gets beaten half to death. You still think he has time to play the hitman?
Oh, I've seen stranger things. You're coming with me, Novak.
Sure, Hellman. But when you figure out how I shot the captain and knocked myself unconscious, write me a postcard. I'd love to read it.
I'm going to get to the bottom of this, Novak. Just hold on.
Johnny, find Jocko Madigan. Oh, he's a boozer and an ex-doctor, but he's the only guy I trust.
Where could I find him?
Look for him in whatever bar in North Beach has the longest happy hour and the shortest bouncer. He'll be there, testing the limits of a bar stool.
Oh, what now, Johnny? The $1 million claim. And now, that expensive camera.
Don't worry, Mr. Kobleski. I'm going to find the truth. I found Jocko Madigan in a North Beach bar, looking like a man who once saw a ship in a bottle and decided to hop in and stow away. Jocko Madigan?
Ah, another seeker of truth in this temple of lost hopes.
Look, Jocko, I'm a friend of Pat Novak's. He's in trouble, Jocko. Real bad trouble.
Patsy's in trouble? Is that news? Get Walter Winchell on the blower right away. Tell him the sky is up, the grass is green, and Patsy's in the soup again.
Jocko, listen. We're investigating the sinking of the SS Marietta. It was carrying a trove of artifacts and artwork. Have you heard anything?
Ah, the Marietta, a lost vessel in time. Much like the human spirit in the hustle of modern life. Do you ever consider how the present becomes the past as soon as you mention it?
Oh, talk sense, Jocko. I'm trying to get Novak out of jail. Without your help, he may have no future.
Dollar, you're just like Patsy. Future tense, past tense. Don't you see? You're too tense.
Well, let's talk about the present. And this little present for you, Jocko. A bottle of scotch, age 30 years. Will this get you talking sense instead of tense?
Ah, bribery with sophistication. You speak the grammar of the gods, Johnny. Regarding your query, whispers around these hollowed halls speak of a Mrs. Malloy of one Nob Hill. She recently acquired a Vermeer, or so her bragging suggests.
That could be our link. The ship carried forgeries, but the originals are surfacing among the elite. I'm going to look into this. Jocko, here's an address of the widow's house. Can you keep an eye on it?
Oh, sure thing, Johnny.
Expense account items 3 and 4. One taxi to send Jocko to the widow's house, and one 30-year-old bottle of scotch, courtesy of Mr. Kobleski. Nob Hill was my next stop. Mrs. Malloy's newfound treasure might just unravel this entire artful puzzle.
Goodbye, lover. and don't do anything I wouldn't do, which narrows down your options considerably.
I arrived at the Nob Hill mansion of Mrs. Malloy. The place was a shrine of wealth. I was greeted at the door by a butler who looked like a walrus stuffed in a penguin suit.
Yes, sir. May I help you?
Yes. I'm here to talk about a painting with Mrs. Malloy.
Oh, you must be the art appraiser, Monsieur Lefranc. We weren't expecting you until tomorrow, but please come in.
Oui. Yeah, I am Monsieur Lefranc. I decided to come early, merci.
Come this way, sir. I'll bring Mrs. Malloy.
Oh, hello, Monsieur Lefranc. Please join me in the study. I have the veneer on a stand, and you're in luck. The seller is here, too. You can speak directly to them.
We walked into the study, and there she was, Mrs. Martini, and the supposedly drowned Vermeer.
There it is, Monsieur Lefranc. Isn't it beautiful? Mrs. Martini, this is Monsieur Lefranc, the art appraiser.
That's no franc. That's $1. But he keeps showing up like a bad penny.
That's right, Mrs. Malloy. Sorry for my little ruse, but my name is Johnny Dollar, and I'm an insurance investigator. And I'm afraid I have to tell you, Mrs. Malloy, but this painting was declared lost at sea by Mrs. Martini.
Mr. Dollar, this painting was part of my private collection. It was never on the ship.
I have the ship's manifest right here, Mrs. Martini, the one you provided. It lists this very painting as part of that cargo that supposedly sank.
Oh, my word! Is this true, Mrs. Martini?
I've done nothing illegal, Mr. Dollar. I am willing to accompany you to the police to sort this out. I'll return later, Mrs. Malloy.
That's a wise decision, Mrs. Martini. The widow agreed to come quietly, which should have made me suspicious. As we left Mrs. Malloy's mansion, I couldn't help feeling that, although I came in French, I might be leaving in Dutch. Mrs. Martini, I think it's best we head straight to the police station to clarify this matter.
Dear Mr. Dollar, I'm afraid you've misunderstood the situation entirely.
Misunderstood? I don't think so, Mrs. Martini. The evidence is quite clear. Oof!
We got him, Mrs. Martini. What do you want us to do with him?
Take him to the storage at Pier 13 with the rest of the artifacts. We can drop him in the bay later.
Frankie, you grab his feet. Let's move before we draw any attention.
Bon voyage, Mr. Dollar. It's time to close your account.
Hellman here. So the paraffin test on Novak came back negative. And the body was moved before there. No prints on the body matching Novak's. All right, keep digging and report back. All right, bye. Gannon, get in here. Novak's clean on the gunplay. You could release him. You're temporarily off the hook, Novak. Forensics says you didn't fire any gun, so you're free to go.
Maybe I shot the captain with my big toe.
Don't get fresh with me, Novak. I know you're mixed up with this somehow. This is far from over.
Oh, Patsy. I thought I'd find you here.
Don't worry, Jacko. I was just visiting. I'm here teaching Hellman how to use a revolving door without getting dizzy. Jocko, have you heard from a Johnny Dollar?
He's a good man, Patsy. He knows his whiskey as well as his business.
Sober up, Jocko. Where is he?
Well, I'm not so sure, Patsy. He had me stake out a joint. I saw a couple of rough characters unloading art from the house. I followed them down to Pier 13.
Maybe it's the same pair of jokers I ran into earlier. Jocko, I want you to show me where they went. I followed Jocko's drunken path to a storage hold on Pier 13. I found a window with a view inside. I could see Johnny Dollar tied to a chair, and those two goons casually discussing throwing Dollar in the bay like they were picking out ties for a Sunday social.
Now, normally, Dollar, Frankie and I would work you over first, before we threw you in the bay. But I gotta take my kid to a Little League game. So I hope you don't think it's rude of me, but we're gonna jump straight to throwing you in the water.
Well, that's very thoughtful of you. If my hands weren't tied, I'd applaud. Hey, what was that for?
Well, Dollar, I don't have any kids, and I hate baseball.
Come on, Frankie. Quit having fun. We got work to do. Let's get the weights from the trunk to make sure he don't pop up again.
Now's my chance. If I can just jimmy up this window. I'm through. Hold on, Dollar. Here I come.
Good timing, Novak. Hurry up. Get these ropes off me. They'll be back any minute.
Wait, what's this? Who's here?
Hey, remember me? Your prints are ready.
Expense account item number 5. Brass knuckles from JoJo's Novelty Shop on Pratt Street. $1.75.
Father Leahy's Home for Wayward Boys boxing camp. Absolutely free. With the two goons singing lullabies on the floor, it was time to tie up the case. They spilled it all to Hellman. The widow and the captain were in cahoots. They planned the sinking for the insurance and to double-dip by selling the originals. But greed's a monster that always wants more. The widow had the captain silenced, and the same with her husband a year back, all for a pile of cash to cover her high-roller lifestyle and debts.
So, Pat, how about a celebratory drink before I head back to Hartford?
Dollar, if you're heading back to Hartford, you'll need a drink.
Oh, I've got one more bottle of 30-year-old scotch. I put it in your office safe earlier. Let's hope Jocko's not a safecracker.
Yep, here it is. Well, here's to you, Dollar. I hope we meet again one day. Novak. It's for you, Dollar.
Hello, Johnny Dollar.
Oh, hello, Dollar. This is Richard Diamond. I didn't realize you and Pat Novak were having a sleepover. Gee, I hope I didn't miss the pillow fight.
Ha ha ha. Richard Diamond, the great singing detective. So, what's the big emergency?
Dollar, my client is a museum of natural history. They were expecting the delivery of a newly discovered secret journal from Nikola Tesla. Oh, but there was one problem, Dollar. The journal never arrived. Hartford Mutual insured the manuscript, and they'd like us to team up. What do you say?
Novak, a stolen Tesla journal. Richard Diamond's looking for help on the case.
Diamond and Dollar. That sounds rich. Just make sure he sticks to detecting and leaves the singing for the shower.
Diamond, I'll be on the next flight for New York City.
Great, Dollar. But just for the record, the only boat I own is the one in my bathtub. I'll see you soon.